Before we get the show started, big announcement. EarthX 2025 tickets are now live. Join 4,000 other attendees, including prime ministers, ambassadors, UN associates, Fortune 500 CEOs, media personalities, all for 4 days of an amazing conference with panels, speakers, presentations, breakout rooms, calls to action, networking. Basically, I went there this past year and it was one of the best events I've ever been to. We will be hosting one full day of the event with a focus on the future of sustainability in business. If you're interested in speaking or sponsoring, contact me, Dylan Welch here. Still have a few speaking spots available. If you're not and you just want to attend and meet amazing people, get inspired, be sure to register today. Anyway, let's get this show started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Green Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Welch. If you've listened to the podcast or you follow green.org, we're huge fans of travel. We like to travel all over the world, but we also like to combine sustainability and business. And so our guest today is a perfect example of someone who has built a business doing all three of these things. Our guest today, Joy Martinello, the founder of Wild Nectar Immersive Travel Collection, has traveled all over the world, has been doing some amazing things when it comes to pushing the sustainable travel agenda forward, and just has some amazing information and stories to tell. I really enjoyed our last podcast. So, Joy, thank you for talking to us again today during these busy times. How are you?
Right. Hey there, Dylan. So great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. Super busy as usual.
Yeah, and for if whenever you're listening to this, it's mid-December right now, so we're like right between the holidays. Everyone's like half lazy, half trying to wrap things up, ending the year, preparing the new year. So Joy, thanks for taking some time today. So I have a question, kind of picking right up where we left off with our last conversation. Last conversation, we talked a lot about travel, how to travel sustainably, some of your favorite locations. But one thing I've noticed, and I kind of want to get your thoughts and feedback, is a lot of people sort of have excuses of why not to travel. Their schedule, their finances, and I find that as well. I love to travel, but I found that sometimes it's hard to like make it happen. So, what advice do you have for maybe someone who's listening right now who's like, I really want to book this trip, but I have this excuse. I have this. I have this. What advice
Yeah.
do you have? And what looks like what stories have you seen of someone maybe feeling that way, taking the plunge, and success or positive things have come from that?
Well, I think the secret to making sure that you travel is scheduling. You just got to put it out there on your calendar, even if you have to put it out far, so that you can make sure that it's blocked out. You're not going to plan anything over it. It is really challenging. One of the most challenging things is trying to get a big family with multi-generational people trying to get together on the same schedule. There's so much going on. The kids have different activities. The adults have meetings, all kinds of things. So the only way that they can succeed to coming up with a date that works for them is to put it way out in the future and put it on the calendar, and then everyone has to stick to it, especially when they've paid for it. They're going to go ahead and go for sure. So that's my recommendation. It's easy to let life get in the way, but travel is so precious, and the experiences that you have traveling, they're so vivid. They're such an important part of our daily lives. Well, it's really important to get travel on your calendar, because you don't want a whole year to go by without having those kinds of vivid, out of the box experiences that you get when you travel. The worrisome part is that you might end up feeling like you're a bit in the doldrums, where everything is kind of the same old if you don't get out of your comfort zone, do something totally different, and have those really important, really vivid, colorful memories of a whole different place that you went to.
Have you ever had a client where maybe they were apprehensive or they'd never traveled before and they did, take that step, put it on the calendar, book it, and have a positive experience? What was that like? Do any moments or people stick out in your mind?
Absolutely. I have a family who are in the Galapagos right now, and they are so nervous about traveling. But they're having an amazing time. It's blowing their minds. There's nothing like the animals in the Galapagos. It really is a destination that impresses every single human being. So if you haven't been, I highly recommend it. But that's definitely an example of people who had a dream of travel, but just not their everyday experience. It's not something they usually do ever, really. So they've needed a lot of handholding, a lot of support. But that's what we're here for. That's exactly why my company exists. One of the main reasons is to support people to do these amazing, outrageous things that they couldn't do on their own, and to be standing by. We have a fantastic phone app that we use. So we're always in touch with our travelers. The people can contact us on the phone app via text. I can email my box. I jump into action. I start to help them right away. So even people who never travel or are really worried about going out of the country can work with us, and we can make sure that everything will go smoothly for them.
Yeah, and that's what I like about your business is and it's very helpful too. One, like taking that first step of, oh, I've never traveled before, or you have a big group, you are the expert and can help them with that. Or even if it is, someone who's traveled to 100 countries, right? It's always good to have that support system, knowing that they're there, knowing that, you're a text or a phone call or an app away, to help them is really beneficial. And one thing that I really am impressed with, and I want to learn more about what you're doing with your company, is the eco score.
Okay.
So, I know there's so many different ways to travel. People want to live more sustainably, and it's kind of like a buzzword almost, right? Like travel, sustainable. But what I really like what you guys have done is put it into a system where you can actually grade it and have real numbers and real data and real outcomes. So tell us a little bit about how this eco score first got created and the idea behind it, and then all the process that has gone through what you've made it into today.
Yeah. So I've worked in the business for 19 years, and I never felt like any of the companies I worked for were doing enough when it came to sustainability. I've worked a couple of times in the space that I'm in now, which is as a travel retailer. So I'm kind of a crossroads for information. I work with a lot of different companies all over the world. I'm kind of reselling their trips, if you will, and then adding our service layer to that. So I have a lot of insider information about what all these different companies are doing that they don't definitely don't know about each other. So it's an amazing position to be in. And it occurred to me that I'm actually in a perfect position to look into exactly what they're doing on the sustainability front and actually find out in real time how their initiatives are unfolding, how they're working out, what kind of data are they generating. So I had the idea of starting a sustainable travel company that wasn't just sustainable in name and put green leaves on things, but actually went out into the world and tried to assess what our different operators are doing. Um, Sometimes this feels like insider information for the company. They don't necessarily want to share it. But I think that's changing because the companies are realizing that we all need to do better. So the only way we can all do better is to be transparent about what's actually going on. And the travelers want you to be transparent as well. So we added this amazing human being, Bronwyn Warwick, who is our Envision and Well-Building credentialed sustainability expert. She's been working with us now for a couple of years. She has created the assessment system that we use to determine the eco score. So our goal is to offer an eco score for every trip that we sell. And we have three different assessment tiers. So the first assessment tier is publicly available information. This is information that you can find on the internet. Sometimes the operators send us links to things that are really hard to find. But generally speaking, this is information that anyone could uncover. And this helps us get kind of a snapshot of where that company is going and what kind of things they're working on. And also, it allows us to keep up with this huge volume of suppliers that we're evaluating. So we have a first level of exploration. That's pretty much where we are with a lot of our companies right now. So most of the eco scores on our site are based on publicly available information. And then the next level of assessment is our eco questionnaire. So Bronwyn's created a very in-depth eco questionnaire. We're using what we call the three Ps: people, planet, and prosperity. Those are three of the 5 pillars from the UN SDGs. Those are the ones that we think relate to travel. So we've based our assessment system on those 3 pillars, and we've come up with a process, travel touches pretty much every aspect of your life when you're on that trip. It has to do with food, it has to do with transportation, it has to do with hotel management, it has to do with supply chain. All these different aspects touch upon your travel experience. So our eco questionnaire has to be in depth enough to capture all that data as much as we possibly can. It is really comprehensive, and it's a little bit of a lot to take on for a supplier, but again, it's in the name of transparency. And all of the operators that we work with are just as passionate as we are about sustainability, so they're definitely willing willing to work on this with us. And then our third level of assessment is on-site assessments. Because I'm selling travel, I'm promoting different operators. Operators want me as a salesperson to go on their trips, so they give us a lot of complimentary trips. So we're using those opportunities to send our sustainability specialists on those trips in order to be able to assess those individual trips on site, which is just a great opportunity to actually see in person how these operations are running. So those are the three tiers of the eco score. And then we create the eco score, and our site lets you know what level that operator is assessed at.
Well, that's a nice little perk as a company owner. I want that job of getting to go on all these expeditions and trips and giving them the score. But no, you mentioned
Right.
something funny, kind of like the insider information. And I think it's important because, when you do present that, there's either two things are going to happen. You're either going to realize, hey, a company is actually more sustainable than we expected. That's amazing. Let's, work with them. Or you find out, maybe a company was saying they're sustainable, but in reality, it was just a buzzword to sell and they weren't. And maybe that's a learning opportunity that you can take to help them, make little changes along the way. So either way, I think it's beneficial. But I also like how you really put like the data analytics into it. It's kind of like when you lose weight, right? You can say, oh, I'm going to lose weight. Or you can put together a plan of I'm going to track my calories and I'm going to work out these dates. And I've found whether it's travel or fitness, by coming up with that plan and tracking it and over time, comparing these numbers is where you really actually get results. So that's really interesting that you've been able to um, put this process behind it. Are there any industries or any trips or any companies or places that when you put together this eco score was surprisingly more sustainable than you were expecting?
Well, there's a couple of companies that we work with who definitely have hit it out of the park when it comes to sustainability. They're super passionate, they're super focused. I usually don't like to talk too much about the names of our suppliers because that's some of our insider
Yeah,
information, if you
more
will.
general.
Um, but one of
Yeah,
them
big
is
picture.
a company that focuses on wildlife trips, and they have an amazing track record all over the world. They have their own internal sustainability specialist, and they are super passionate about what they're doing. So they have just impressed us over the moon as far as what they're doing with their work. Another one is a shipping company that's all over the world. They partner with National Geographic. They too are very much walking the talk and doing the work that they say they're doing, and even above and beyond, even more than what it seems like they're doing on the surface. So that's definitely rewarding to, look deeply into these companies and to be, happily surprised that they're doing such great work out there in the world. Um, there are other companies that we work with that are a little bit different as far as the scale goes. Maybe they're just getting started with some of their sustainability efforts, or a lot of them are small operators, like small land agents, who
Mhm.
maybe don't have the resources to monitor their own sustainability initiatives very closely or monitor their footprint. And we're trying to be supportive of those smaller companies. In a lot of ways, they have some of the best experiences to offer travelers because they're on the ground. They have local people that they're bringing to meet you. They're really amazing companies that have a lot to offer. And we feel like if their ethos is in the right place and they're doing something, they're trying to make some steps toward having a more sustainable operation, we're willing to work with them. And even just working with them with the eco questionnaire will help them realize new areas that they could focus on and be more sustainable. So that's a great process too. We're excited to work with companies on both ends of the spectrum as long as they're as passionate as we are about sustainability.
Yeah, no, that's cool that the bigger companies they already have that sustainability person on their end as well, so you almost get that like double-sided proof of proof that they're working on it. But then that's how it is, when you travel to these different places, not when you're in a little town or a village or a jungle. You don't want to go with this corporation that's like, hey, come take our trip or come work with us. It's like you want to find those small local family owned boots on the ground people. And yeah, they might not be able to, implement really sustainable practices into their operations. But then at the same time, on the flip side of that, you're supporting local businesses, you're supporting local communities, you're getting almost a more real experience. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, right? Like nobody's going to be perfect. Um, but that is cool that, you have kind of like thought through those things. Are there any experiences with clients where maybe they weren't as, say, passionate or interested in, traveling sustainability, but after experiencing a trip like yours, it made more of an impact and they wanted to implement it into their day-to-day lives or their future travels.
That happens quite often, actually. I do receive some travelers that come to me through referral, and they aren't necessarily coming into our world because of our sustainability ethos. So once they're working with me and they see the different kinds of things that we're working on, we always have carbon offsetting recommendations for our clients. We actually plant a tree for every trip that we sell. So we have a little forest going in Madagascar, which we're really excited about.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but the little things that we do along the way during the travel planning process do kind of surprise some of the travelers who weren't expecting that. I think it's true of many, many travelers, and it's kind of one of our challenges right now in order to tell our story in a really big way. Even people who recycle and shop at Whole Foods and buy organic and do all these different things, don't necessarily realize that they could be traveling sustainably also. So there's definitely an education piece that's an important part of what we're doing. So definitely there are travelers who say, wow, I didn't even know that I could try to travel sustainably. It never occurred to me that we should think about, carbon offsetting our flights or, choosing a trip operator that has a better track record in sustainability. But once they realize that this is possible and that we can help them do it, then they get really excited. So that's one of my favorite feelings actually as a client. I'm like, wow, I can really travel sustainably. Well, in our world as sustainably as possible. Um, so yes, you actually can travel sustainably. And for those of you out there who are just realizing that you can, you get in touch because we can definitely help you.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's funny. It's kind of like a chicken or the egg kind of thing because I think the people who do like your trips, do want to travel, have, they've ventured out of their comfort zone. They've seen different parts of the world. They've seen different ecosystems. And I think that alone gives them more of a respect for the planet in general. Then on the flip side, people who, want to live more sustainably understand there's all these different areas of the world and want to visit those. And so they kind of go hand in hand, sustainability and travel. I've never met someone who loves to travel and just doesn't care at all about the planet, right? Or vice versa. I don't think I've ever met someone who's passionate about sustainability and doesn't want to go on, a 10-day or 2-week trip to Antarctica. So it's really smart and really cool. And I'm glad to hear that you're kind of able to, get these referrals with your business and new people and then bring them into that world. And then the people that are already passionate about this, you get to show them new, awesome experiences. And I'm sure it's a very rewarding, journey to work with these people and your clients. And I'm sure they come home very excited and refreshed. I always like hearing stories of when I talk to people who travel. So, do you have like a story or an experience of, one of your clients booked a trip with you, went somewhere cool, and just came back like totally changed or had an experience that really left a profound impact on them?
Absolutely. This is a little bit of a sadder story. I don't know, but it is a really powerful story for me. When I went to the Arctic, I went to the Arctic in 2019 on an expedition ship. I saw my first polar bear, which was incredible. It was like 30 yards away, blew my mind. But on this trip, there was this fellow traveler named Carl, and Carl was kind of in my zodiac, and the zodiac's a riverized craft that go to shore, and I got to know him a little bit. Um, and also on the ship was this amazing geologist, and he told us this incredible story, not a story, he gave us this incredible information about how the Greenland ice cap was melting and how with the sea level rise, it was actually going to change a lot of the planet. And one of the things he said was, in the next 5 to 10 years, most of the animals in Bangladesh are going to die, unfortunately. And people in Bangladesh will be kind of shoving themselves into shipping containers, trying to get anywhere, get to the US, get to some other part of the world just to survive. It was one of the most chilling and intense things I've ever heard, and I heard in this lecture on this expedition ship to the Arctic. That night, I was having dinner with this fellow passenger that I'd met, Carl. He was, very well dressed. He was a pretty nice fellow, but he was a little grumpy, kind of when the waiter was slow, that kind of a personality. Well, he looks at me at dinner after hearing this lecture, and he said, you know, is there anything that I can do in order to protect my grandchildren from what's coming? What is going to happen here? And it just struck me that this was probably the first time that he had ever realized how much climate change was going to affect his whole life. And I was really moved by that. I mean, it was kind of part of what inspired me to start this company, just knowing that there are things that we can do. There are attempts we can make to try to mitigate the effects of climate change. And as more and more people realize how serious it is, like this fellow, traveling to somewhere, having that experience, yes, the polar bear is incredible, but even meeting someone like this geologist who's traveled the whole world and getting this different perspective, that really can change your life and your whole perspective. So it was an amazing experience, and I will never forget that guy.
That is crazy. And I think what I found is that when you go on trips like this, or when you travel, or whether it's a week or 2 weeks, or you go somewhere, for a month, it's those 2 weeks or that month, you grow more as a person than maybe in 5 years of you, or 10 years, or more than you ever would just staying in that same hometown, or, where you live. And it sounds like that person, that man had a big growth opportunity where he ventured out and learned something new. And who knows, what he's doing today. And maybe he made a big, change to his lifestyle, or he's donating money or time or educating others. And so, yeah, that's a great story to share, and perfect example of, why it's important to travel, and why it's important to travel sustainably, because I'm sure he didn't just go back home and forget that, especially if, he's a little bit older and has kids and grandkids and wants to, leave a positive impact on the planet for them. So thank you for that story. Yeah, those, not all travel experiences are happy. Sometimes you learn some pretty crappy things of, things that are happening, and that's a part of human history. Is some crazy negative things have happened as well, but it's also important to, learn from those things and apply it to the future of, how you live your life. So yeah, that's the pros and cons. And I think, even though it is a little bit sadder, at the end of the day, at least he, learned something positive, and we'll take that and go hopefully do something with it. Um, do you have any big, on a more positive note, do you have any exciting trips planned that you're looking forward to in 2025, or any trips that you have preparing or upcoming for your clients?
Well, for myself, I'm a little too busy still to do a lot of traveling. So still head down, kind of focusing on the company. But I definitely have clients getting ready to do some amazing trips for sure. I'm sending a lot of people to a combination of either Argentina and Chile, like exploring many beautiful areas in those countries, particularly Patagonia, which crosses the border, or a combination of Chile and Peru. So that's also, and also Peru and Galapagos is always a super um, popular combination of places to visit in one trip. So those are definitely incredible trips. I just had a client come back from a trip, and he had gone to the Galapagos, he went to Peru, he went to Chile, and then he went to Antarctica. So that was a pretty spectacular trip. I think it was like 45 days long.
Wow.
So that was one that I really got excited about. And yeah, it was an amazing experience for him. They're just blown away by all the things that they saw, all the people that they met. So that was a great experience. So yes, and I have a client who's looking to do a birding trip in Papua New Guinea. Things like that are really interesting because there's not a lot of infrastructure in Papua New Guinea, and you have to be pretty careful about where you send travelers to, just to make sure that they're safe and they can get transportation everywhere they need to go and things like that. So I definitely have some trips on my desk that are more interesting and maybe a little more challenging to plan than others. So that's true as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, 45 days traveling around South America sounds so fun. I'm sure they had a great time. I was very lucky to go to Chile and Patagonia and Argentina last year, and it was honestly probably my favorite trip, of
Yes.
seeing, these massive glaciers in person. And one, it's almost hard to comprehend when you see something like that,
Yeah.
just your mind is like, it's the mathematics just is crazy. But then also we both work in the sustainability field. We like to travel, but again, going back to seeing those things in person and knowing that, what humans are doing is affecting, these massive glaciers and how much they're shrinking. But then seeing it in person is a very eye-opening, humbling experience, as, the man you mentioned earlier in that story. And you don't just walk away from it and forget about that, right? It has a deep impact on your life and changes you. And so hopefully if you're listening to this podcast, and you're interested in going down, or you've ever had the inclination to travel to Chile or Argentina or Patagonia, one, I highly recommend it. And two, talk to Joy about getting your trip planned because she can help you get it, set up, organize, and do it in a sustainable way. Well, Joy, thank you again for everything you're doing. I always love chatting with you. I always love hearing about, the people you're working with, the trips you're working on. Do you have any fun, exciting plans for the to wrap up the year? Are you still head down, getting the business, plugging along, or are you going to take some time to relax, or what's on your agenda?
I'm actually going to visit my family in Atlanta, which is amazing. I haven't visited them in many, many years, so that'll be a real pleasure. So looking forward to a little bit of downtime, although I'm bringing my computer. I got to look after my travelers while they're out there in the world, and I have a lot of them traveling over the holidays. So that's a big part of what I'll be doing, but it'll be really fun to be in a different place for a little while, for
Yeah,
sure.
do you have kind of busy seasons where people tend to like everyone kind of books all at once type of thing? Is the holidays
Mhm.
one of them or any other times throughout the year?
Holidays definitely people travel, but as far as when people decide to book travel, we have something called the wave season, which is January, February, March. It's just amazingly busy. So a lot of us in the business are getting ready for January because that's when it was like they've had their Christmas dinner, they talked about where they want to go next with their families. You're on the phone like January 2nd, ready to work on a trip. So it's a wonderful time of year for us. It's super, super busy. Excited about
Good.
that.
Yeah. Well, I bet a lot of people have their New Year's resolutions of going to do some traveling this upcoming year. So you're ready to take those phone calls.
Oh, yep, we're standing by, ready to help for sure.
Well, then in that case, enjoy these next couple weeks. Enjoy some family time. And for those of you listening who don't know, I'm very excited to announce that Joy will be a speaker at our upcoming event in April, EarthX 2025. So if you're interested in meeting Joy in person, learning more about travel, more about living sustainably, traveling sustainably, be sure to visit us there at EarthX 2025. See Joy, talk to her, pick her brain, hear some more stories. And yeah, if you're interested as well, we'll leave Joy's website, contact information in the podcast description. And other than that, Joy, thank you so much for being here, taking some time out of your day in these holidays, and look forward to hearing more about your trips, more about your travels, and seeing you in Dallas in April.
Yes, Dylan, thank you so much for having me. It's just been a pleasure. Thanks again.
Same. And of course, to everyone who listens, who tunes in, our goal at green.org with the Green Podcast is to bring you the leaders in travel and business and tech and sustainability, share what they're working on, learn from them, apply it to your lives, and make some connections so that we can all live a little bit more sustainably. So hopefully you reach out to Joy, book your travel, and we appreciate your support of the show. We appreciate you listening, and we hope you have a happy new year and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning into the episode. My name is Dylan Welch. Appreciate it. As always, stay up to date with the latest information on green.org and dylanwelch.com. Dylan Welch Media is a full-service media and communications agency dedicated to promoting, marketing, and helping businesses in clean tech, renewable energy, and sustainability grow, get more clients, get more customers, get in front of their ideal clientele. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out. If you're interested in joining the Green Summit, go to www.green-summit.org. Reserve your ticket today. There's very few spots left, so make sure you get on that ASAP. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.